Great, thanks a lot, Scott, and thank you everybody for hopping on the call today. Today we're going to be talking about what to know before transitioning to VoIP. Again, my name is Kator. I'm the President and Telecom Manager of Bandwidth Simplified. What you should expect to learn today. Things you should learn today are going to be learn about the marketplace, including differences between providers and the products that they offer, how to set up your network and what to expect from your telephone management process, important details on the cost structure and how to budget accordingly for VoIP, and lastly, how to implement VoIP into your business and what support you can expect from your service provider. Just to start off on some basics, VoIP there's a lot of different style of VoIP, but what we're concentrating on today is hosted VoIP services. In my opinion, there are really two style of providers that offer hosted VoIP services, for businesses at least. These are going to be your traditional voice providers and your dedicated VoIP providers. Traditional VoIP providers, and when I say traditional, these are the companies that you normally know now. Your AT&T, Comcast, Verizon, Access One, and even locally here in Chicago, companies like Birch, which was formerly CBN, Exo, First Communications, etc. These companies are companies that you've seen in the marketplace previously that offer your traditional internet services, basic phone lines, PRI services, Ethernet, fiber, and over the past couple of years, they've been slowly transitioning to offering VoIP as part of their platform. The shift has happened over the past 3 years because of VoIP cost, the features that it has to offer, and in all reality, user demand in the marketplace for a more feature-rich system at a reasonable cost. On the flip side, in regards to the other providers, we're looking at more dedicated VoIP providers and what you would think of when you hear the cloud. These providers, they do offer other services other than VoIP providers. Some do, and some only concentrate on VoIP services. The big difference that I see between these two providers, the dedicated VoIP providers really have strong engineering backgrounds where they're really focused on software implementation and integrating other applications to your voice services rather than just giving you your dial tone and your connection to make phone calls to the outside world. These providers may not be a lot of household names, but they're very strong in the marketplace, and you also see them being ranked very high in Gartner rankings, are 8x8, Ring Central, Nextiva, Vonage Business, and there's many more. Traditional VoIP traffic runs over your internet connection within your office space. It runs over your internet with a secure network, and then your calls are then being pushed to the cloud. So your PBX, your traditional phone system, is actually in the cloud, hosted by the service provider, and then they push your phone calls out to wherever your end destination is for your phone call, either be it a cell phone, another VoIP provider, or back to a traditional network, which is run over what most people know as a public switch telephone network. Another big thing that people really like about the VoIP services are all the out-of-the-box features that are provided to end users, and we'll go through that here in a little bit. There are some differences other than being traditional versus a dedicated cloud provider. There are some differences within each provider. One thing we'll look at first are the service plans and the cost structure. A lot of companies charge what's called a per seat model, and some companies offer a per seat model and a voice channel. In regards to the per seat model, I'm describing looking at a 1-to-1 ratio. If I'm a user within an office place and I need a phone and I need to make an outside phone call, I'm going to receive a phone. I'm going to be able to make an outside call, and that's a per seat model. So each individual user that needs a phone and needs a handset to make phone calls out will receive a handset, versus a per seat and channel model, which is very similar to the way that your traditional analog phone systems are set up right now with extensions, or if you're familiar with PRI and digital setup, where you can have 50 users within an office space. They all have handsets on their desk, but they can only make a number of concurrent calls through their voice channels. So you can have, let's say you have 50 users, you can be able to make, and you have 6 available voice channels, you can only be able to make 6 concurrent calls, whereas the previous per seat model I described, you can have 50 users, 50 handsets, and you can make up to 50 phone calls at any given time. Also, the seat cost within these providers all vary. Some providers pricing ranges between $20 upwards to $40, and this is really going to depend on the service provider you decide to move forward with and the features that they offer within their phone system. Most providers offer unlimited usage, so unlimited local and long distance within the United States versus some companies who offer a metered seat, which is more going to be your public area seat. So your standard users with the unlimited usage are your basic office users, the executives, folks within your queues, or you can get metered seats, which are priced out a little bit cheaper, which are going to be more of your common area phones, your kitchen phone, your conference room phone. So there's a variance in pricing there to be able to really fit to what best fits your office setup. Lastly, usage plans. Again, most carriers are going to offer unlimited local long distance, but again, it is going to vary depending on which carrier you choose, where some will offer you unlimited local and then a long distance bucket to be able to supplement any long distance calls you're making. Another difference in between the providers is going to be the control that you get within your phone system. Hosted VoIP is nice because you're able, each provider, is going to give you an administrative portal to be able to make changes to your account, to be able to see your billing, update any information on any users who are coming into your office or going out of your office, any type of administrative changes you want to make to your account. VoIP systems are going to give you the ability to do that, but that ability is going to be either given full control or a little bit of control, really depending on which service provider you choose. So depending on which provider you like, you're really going to understand how much control do you want of the phone system prior to making your choice. And then another major difference between the providers are going to be the features that are offered. I call these out-of-the-box features versus enhanced features. That is also going to be a differentiating factor between the different providers. Some are going to give you just a standard out-of-the-box features, which we'll review. Others are going to give you enhanced features to really streamline your business and, again, connect your other applications that you use within your office, Salesforce, email, etc. Connect that into your hosted system as well. In regards to those out-of-the-box features that I mentioned earlier, out-of-the-box features, class 5 features. These are your call transferring, call waiting, call on hold, voicemail, standard features that you get in your PBX, you will also get from the majority of VoIP providers out there in the marketplace. You'll also get auto attendant, which is the ability to be able to redirect calls and be able to create your call flow however you like within your office, and also music on hold, where you have the ability to be able to change your music on hold from a standard, elevator music, or you can be able to play an ad for your company and upload that music into your hold music queue. You'll get direct inward dial, so each individual user will be able to have their own individual phone number. You have the control to be able to outpost that number, so if you want other people to know those individual numbers, or you can simply outpost your main number, so when people call in, they can still call in to your receptionist or your auto attendant, and then you have control of where your phone calls go from there. Other out-of-the-box features are click to dial, ability to be able to click through a browser and make a phone call with one click. Find me, follow me. If you're outside the office and you want to build rules within your phone system to be able to get a call always directed to you, you'll be able to build that within your software of your hosted PBX. mobile application ability. If you don't want your calls to just simply be forwarded to your cell phone, you'll actually get a mobile application. A majority of providers do offer this, where you'll be able to download a mobile app onto your cell phone, be able to make calls, receive calls as if you were in the office, even be able to do extension dialing from a mobile application as if you were still in your desk and you can be remote. I described earlier with the administrative web portal. Again, this really depends on how much control you as a business owner or IT or whoever's controlling the phone system wants. You'll be able to make changes, add users, change users' profiles, add new phones, whatever the case may be. You'll actually have that control of the system through a web GUI interface, and also automatic failover. We're going to discuss this later on. We're with VoIP and hosted VoIP. Everything is run over the internet, so if there's ever any type of issues, you'll be able to build rules within the phone system, because the phone system is actually in the cloud, to be able to redirect your calls to cell phones or other locations or other phones by simply going to a web page and redirecting those calls. And of course, your standard PBX functionality of being able to transfer calls within the office, voicemail, picking up, dialing calls. Just the basic things are going to come with the hosted PBX feature with the out-of-box features. Next are more enhanced features, and this is where I would say are more towards those dedicated cloud providers who have a little bit more engineering expertise, and their focus is the cloud, and they're constantly upgrading and improving their software. You're going to get the out-of-the-box features that we previously talked about in the last slide, but you also get features such as unified communications. This is the ability to be able to have internal chat, SMS text messaging, both internally and externally, with your users. Mobility applications. We talked about the mobile app earlier, but this is also having an app to be able to put onto a tablet. Another application you'll have other than the mobility is a soft phone application, and all a soft phone is the ability to be able to make phone calls from your desktop computer with the headset on. This is good for folks that have workers that are outside the office, or folks that don't want handsets. They can simply, as long as you have a steady internet connection, you can plug a USB headset in and be able to make a call right there. Other features are web audio conferencing. Again, we talked about the CRM and email integration, out-of-the-box features to connect your Microsoft Office, O365, Salesforce, other applications. If you have a call center, you'll be able to tie in your call center functionality with your PBX as well. Advanced call reporting for folks that really need to drill down and see what their users are doing on a regular basis, and or see where their calls are coming from to be able to market towards those. Fax to email, so eFax features, eliminating the traditional fax machine, and giving you the ability to be able to receive and send faxes from your desktop, email, or mobile application. And as we discussed previously, the ability to have the full advanced administrative control to be able to control your phone system without necessarily needing to call anybody in customer support. Once you decide on which phone provider you want to work with, depending on your needs and the functionality of your business, you're going to want to make sure that your network is set up properly. As I said previously, VoIP is wholly dependent on your network. So within your network, the one major thing you're going to want to make sure you have is a steady and reliable internet connection. VoIP calls take roughly 30 to 80K of bandwidth per call, so our recommendation is to always have enough overhead of bandwidth to be able to still be able to accept as many concurrent calls as you have handsets, but have your users still be able to do their basic functionality of web surfing, email, and etc. This then dives into your actual network itself, the physical network. To really provide a successful VoIP network, you want to make sure you have a business class firewall. With this firewall, you also want to have a feature called quality of service. This QoS feature is the ability to be able to segment off bandwidth that is dedicated strictly for your phone lines. In an instance where somebody has downloaded a bunch of data and a bunch of bandwidth, you're always going to want to make sure that voice takes precedence over data. So by having a QoS feature, you can be able to rank the priority of your voice higher than other applications on your network. Business class switch, about making sure that your office is networked, so anywhere that you need to be able to make a phone call or have a phone on your desk, there's actually a drop there that can be able to connect back to your firewall and to your internet connection. Within that, you want to make sure that your cabling in your office is Cat 5 or better. And lastly, having a decent IT support. Working with folks like SwitchFast and making sure that your network is secure, because again, everything is run over the internet, but also your network. So if you don't have a steady network currently, you're not going to have a very good experience with VoIP. Conversely, if you have a rock solid network, you're probably going to get the best quality of VoIP because everything is dependent on your network and also on the internet connection coming in. An additional, an additional way to run a successful network is also to get a secondary internet connections. There are areas in Chicago or wherever everybody's at right now that just don't have the best reliability in regards to internet. So a recommendation would be to get a secondary internet connection. You can be able to build a failover from your firewall or any other device to be able to run concurrently at the same time. If anything ever happens to your primary internet connection, everything bounces to your secondary, so you never lose any type of voice quality. As a network is set up and you're comfortable that your network is good to go, you're going to go through the sales process of choosing a provider. Through this evaluation process, you'll receive proposals and service plans from multiple providers. Within those service plans, you'll see their voice usage plans, either it's unlimited or per minute basis. You also see a charge for the per seat cost, and or if it's a provider that requires you to have a voice channel, you'll see that charge as well. Hardware, and we'll go into the hardware a little bit later as well. This hardware can either be purchased, leased, or rented. Again, that's all going to vary depending on the voice provider that you're looking at. Upfront costs will also be included. This upfront cost will include any type of hardware that's coming in, installation, and any type of training that you're going to need for the phone system, so you can really use the system as best to your ability as possible. And lastly, ongoing support updates. For the most part, a majority of providers, I'd say mainly all providers actually, support and ongoing implementation is included in your monthly pricing. Going into the VoIP cost structure, I break this down looking at more of an operational expense versus a capital expense. VoIP being more of an operational expense, and when I bring this up, it's more of the fact that if you buy a traditional phone system nowadays, you're buying that phone system outright, one large sum, and that's your cost, and then you're buying the phone lines and the phone usage to be able to connect to that phone system, versus OpEx where everything comes in one. You'll be signing up with the provider, and they're going to give you the handsets and your usage, your support, your maintenance is all built in that one monthly price as an OpEx cost. This is an ongoing cost for as long as you have the services. Cost of handsets may drop off at some point, maybe a 2-year mark or 3-year mark, depending on how long your lease is, or if you have a rental, that OpEx cost will be there for as long as you're with that provider. Potential costs that you may incur while bringing in a VoIP solution are going to be the hardware cost. And again, this is going to be the handsets. We'll talk about the handsets a little bit later as well. So these handsets are going to come, some providers offer you free handsets, some providers have a pay up front for the handsets alone, or others have a monthly cost structure. And cost of upgrading your network hardware, that is also a part of the expenses that you should expect. If you currently don't have a solid business class firewall, business class switch or proper cabling, that is expenses that you're going to want to take a look into to make sure that if you're considering VoIP, you have these set up properly so you can, you can guarantee you have a good VoIP experience. If not, services may vary depending on, what type of equipment and the service provider. Lastly, internet cost. If you do not have a steady internet connection right now, or you're running on a low-class DSL, and or you're running a great connection, but you want to put a redundant connection behind that just to make sure everything works properly, you're going to want to think about the cost to be able to bring in the internet connection as well. Costs that can be eliminated by VoIP services. Like I said previously, the move ads changes. A lot of carriers are going to give you the ability to make those changes yourselves. Currently, right now, if you're on a traditional setup with the PRI or analog, whenever you want to make a change, you'll probably need to call into your service provider or your phone system support, and this may cost you, a MAC, what they call a MAC charge in the telecom industry. And by going to VoIP, you will eliminate those charges because you'll be able to make those changes yourself. The other thing that you'll be eliminating from VoIP by adding VoIP services are those ongoing phone system maintenance charges. There are phone systems out there where you pay a monthly or quarterly support charge. That will be eliminated by moving your service over to VoIP. Moving into the telephone management process, we discussed once you see the proposal, you start evaluating your services, you're going to want to go through the evaluation process with your internal team on what your needs are, and then also with either the service providers you're looking into or with a consultant helping you walk through the process. Once you select a service provider based upon your compatibility, you obviously be able to agree upon a contract and pricing and be able to put ink to paper to move forward with the service provider. After choosing your service provider, processes vary a little bit, but for the most part, this is the way that it's going to go. You're going to set up a call with yourself, your IT support, and the service provider that you chose to really break down and give them exactly how you want your phone system to work. How do you want your calls to come in? Which users are admins or basic users, what your extension numbers are, etc. You're going to sit down with the service provider and really build the phone system to your specs. Once this is done, the provider is going to ship you out your hardware, the hardware being the handsets. Handsets are already going to be pre-programmed, ready to go. Some providers already have your numbers loaded in there. Some are going to have dummy DIDs, so they'll be able to ship out your phone. So once you get your phones, you'll be able to put them on your desk and set up and wait for your port date. Once your port date comes, this is the date that you're going to take your phone numbers from one provider over to your new VoIP provider and be able to map that phone porting to each individual phone. After the phones are set up, obviously we'll have the test and turn update, and then you'll have training by the winning service provider. This training is also going to vary depending on which provider you choose. Some providers offer on-site training, while others only offer remote online training. So that's something you want to put in consideration of your decision-making process of who you want to go with depending on the training and support. And once you're up and live and running, you'll be working with that service provider. They're going to be your go-to for any type of troubleshooting or any type of questions as time goes on. They'll also provide routine software updates of both your services and also routine firmware updates to your handsets as well too. Now going into the handsets, there are many different VoIP handsets in the marketplace. These four are the ones I see mainly out there in the marketplace. You're looking at the Polycom handsets, Cisco handsets, Panasonic, and Yealink. I see a lot of Polycom out there, mainly for the fact that they have a good share of the marketplace, and also with Polycom handsets, they seem to be more compatible with the majority of providers out there. So let's say you choose one provider, and 2 or 3 years later you decide you wanted to look at a different provider. You can be able to take that exact same handset, refresh that handset, and be able to use that handset on a new provider if you choose. The devices, and in regards to the handset types, there's many different handset types. So your standard handsets, cordless handsets, receptionist handsets with a sidecar, or conference room handsets as well too. The devices act as mini switches on your desk. So in the scenario where you only have one data or internet drop at each location, you'll be able to actually call, you'll be able to actually connect the phones, daisy chain the phones to your computer. So that simply means you're taking your internet connection from the wall, plug it into one of the ports in the back of the phone. Most phones have multiple ports, and then you're out of another port in the back of the phone, you connect that into your computer, so you can be able to daisy chain and use the phone as a switch to be able to get internet powered to both your phone and your computer at the same time. As we said, this is obviously a cloud solution, so the phone actual server itself and what people know as a PBX, that is actually up in the cloud. So any changes that you're going to want to make to your call flow or your system, you'll be able to make from the physical handset on a web portal, the admin web portal, or by simply calling to your service provider and open up a ticket and having customer support help you. What to expect from post-implementation support. In regards to the VoIP providers themselves, you should expect unlimited remote support. A majority of the VoIP services may not be coming on site to actually do a physical support, because a lot of these support can be handled remotely. So you'll be able to have unlimited phone support and unlimited web support. You're always going to have routine software updates for the actual system itself. So if new features come out, if there's a new layout for your web page, you'll see those just like you see updates of LinkedIn and Facebook. A lot of the VoIP services are software based, so you'll see these updates routinely. And the last thing that you'll see on a regular basis is firmware updates to your handsets to always keep the handsets as up to date as possible. From the end user, from your perspective, you'll have access to a web portal. So you'll have the ability to be able to, make any changes, open tickets, things that we discussed earlier. You'll have access to the web portal. Also, you always want to, keep your IT support close. Obviously, we're talking about VoIP and voice, but in all reality, this is more of a data application, in my opinion. So your, the traditional phone system vendor is not really the main guy anymore. The main guy are companies like SwitchFast and your IT support, who are going to be the ones to make sure they can be able to troubleshoot any issues on the network if something does come up. Lastly, you always have access to customer service to be able to make a phone call and open up a ticket and troubleshoot anything that comes up as you're using services. Some of the pros and cons, and there, obviously there's a bunch of different pros and cons, but we wanted to highlight a couple and not take too much time on the call today. Pros that I've seen that we want to list were: you get a Fortune 500 phone system at a flat rate, small and mid-sized business cost. You also have the ability to be able to, as a small and mid-sized business, customize your call flow by yourself. A lot of the features and functionality with a hosted phone system are very feature rich, but you do not have to be an engineer to be able to make these changes. You also have the potential of reducing cost. This reduction in cost can be on a per monthly basis, on a support basis, but once you're going through your evaluation to see if VoIP is right for you, you'll be able to really evaluate, okay, am I able to save money, or am I getting more for than what I was getting for the same price? Also, you have the administrative control as the end user, and also you'll be able to connect remote offices and users. So because your phone system in the cloud, if you have remote office and remote users, you'll actually be able to set them up as if you guys are in one call tree simply by building the extensions off of the cloud PBX. Some cons in regards to looking at hosted VoIP: an ongoing monthly bill. Obviously, you probably have an ongoing monthly bill because right now you're paying for your phone lines or your phone system, etc. But depending on your growth of your office, if you start adding more and more users, your billing will increase by those users. So if you have 20 users now and you increase to 10 users, your bill will increase that incremental charge, and that charge will be ongoing until you switch providers. User adoption of new technology is another, it's a con, but it's just the way life is. Some people just don't like new technology. This can be both be internally and externally for people who are calling in. So you want to make sure that you do a good job of training both your internal and your external users. And also the biggie, voice is dependent on your internet connection. So if you do not have a steady internet connection right now, that is something you're going to want to consider, or not consider VoIP because you want to make sure you have quality of service and users who are calling, you want to make sure they hear you clearly. Last thing, I just thought about a couple questions you may want to ask yourself, and there's probably a bunch more, but some are, does my organization have the right expertise to be able to my business and what we need them to do? How much control and management do I want in my phone system? That'll help you decide on which provider you choose to go with. And lastly, does the pricing model result in any cost savings or any enhancements to my business that is worth it for me to move to VoIP services? And that wraps it up for the presentation on if VoIP is a good fit or not. If there are any questions, I'd love to take them. Here's my contact information for any other additional questions offline.